Today we're interviewing a very special guest, an Olympic gold medalist, this year's chef de mission in Tokyo. Today we are interviewing Marnie McBean. Let's go! Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. You?
I'm doing great. I've got 5 homeschooling a little bit, but we're all good.
Oh, that's awesome. It's an honor to have you, by the way.
Yeah, and look at you with the Tokyo Stadium behind you. Fantastic.
Yes. Thank you. So, by the way, congratulations on your stellar career. You've made Canada so proud of what you did for the sport of rowing.
And thanks so much. You know, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, must have been. So I would like to start by asking questions about your career and then talking about like your role in Tokyo for Canada and a bit about the games themselves and then a few rapid fire questions. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, no problem. I'm just looking at myself. I'm a bit dark. I don't know if you care about the video, but
it's fine. So people often talk about the years of training leading up to the Olympics. Are you really planning 4 years ahead so that you are like the best during the games? And what is that commitment like?
Gosh, well, I guess, yes, you are training 4 years ahead, but the commitment is often more what you're thinking about isn't that far away. The coaches might have an idea that the progression is going to kind of go up every year, kind of a little bit. So you usually have like a world championships season every year. So I want to get better for the next year's worlds and the year 2 worlds, year 3 worlds. And then the Olympics is the pinnacle of those 4. And then even then, that's too much to think about, like even in a 1 year sense. Sometimes you just want to get better tomorrow. So I would say always trying to focus on that. And in the end, you just kind of think, well, the whole campaign that you're on is going to end at the Olympics, and then you'll make a decision whether you're going to go further or not. So it's always about that stretch being the best. So it's kind of weird because sometimes you get to a point where if it's your second Olympics, you realize you've been at it for 7 or 8 years to get to that point. And while you haven't been thinking about that second Olympics the whole time, everything you've done is adding on and layering so that you're just going to be
better and better
tomorrow than you were today.
So rowing is like a grueling sport. Like, what is it like leading in a gold medal event when you're dealing with fatigue and pain and the pressure of winning? Like there's people behind you, you're winning. Like, how do you overcome all of that?
I love that you started with rowing, the grueling event. Clearly, you've done your research. Awesome. You'll never see a rower do a victory lap. We cross the finish line and we usually kind of collapse. The cool thing about rowing, some people think it's kind of weird, but the cool thing about rowing is we go backwards. So if I'm winning a race, I'm looking at whoever's second or third or fourth or fifth, and there's 6 boats in a race. So sometimes I used to joke that winning a race is a seat with a view. So if I'm winning a race, then I can see who's second. And that's really unusual, right? Because usually as soon as you get the lead, you can't see everyone because they get behind you. But in rowing, it's the other way. As soon as you get a lead, now I can see everyone. So there's a little bit mentally that if you're leading a race, that makes it a little easier. But then when the people you're beating make an attack and all of a sudden they start going faster, you're like, oh no, here they come, right? So then you have to figure out how to stay ahead of them without panicking. And that's a bit of a trick too, because when somebody's coming at you, if all I do is respond to them, that could take me out of my game. And because the thing about rowing being really grueling, it's not just your legs, and rowing is probably 60 to 65% legs, because that's the biggest muscle group we have in our body. So we're going to try and maximize how we use our legs. And then it's also our back, how we pry and how we accelerate. It's our core, it's our abs, how we come back to take the next stroke. And it's our arms, how we pull the blade towards us. So it's grueling for the whole body. And at the same time, your lungs feel like they're on fire, and you're trying to figure out how to get ahead and stay ahead. So part of it is just knowing it's going to hurt, knowing it's going to really hurt, and just kind of getting okay with that, right? Because 99 times out of 100, if not more, no matter how much it hurts, it's not going to kill you. And the truth is, if you wanted to stop hurting, you just stop. But that's not always a great outcome for winning a race.
Yeah, no. How do you compare the hype around like a world championship event and the Olympics? And is there more at stake? At the Olympics?
Gosh, you're nailing it with great questions. In the moment, like an athlete always wants to win. There's never a moment that an athlete doesn't want to win. So they really care about everything. And like we were talking about earlier, every year has a pinnacle race. So whether it's going to be a world championships, the next world championships, and after 4 years, that builds up to an Olympics. World championships are hugely important. And even if we look at other sports, like, soccer, you might even say that their World Cup is more important to them, just in a cultural way within their sport. But I think the thing that really changes the way the Olympics make us feel is the fact that everybody else cares more about them. A lot of times world championships happen with no one else paying attention, with just your friends and family, maybe the newspaper covers, or the internet, maybe they're going to come and cover a world championship. But it seems that everybody cares about the Olympics. And so suddenly there's way more expectations on you. And it's those expectations from other people, the external expectation, that really changes, I think, how we feel about the Olympic Games. So you always want to win, but there's just something about the Olympics, because they are consumed by so many more people than just a world championship. And people really care. Like, people right now are caring about our badminton team, our table tennis team, our gymnastics team, our wrestling team, when, they've all had world championships, and we've had success in all of those sports over the previous years. But we're like, oh, the Olympics are coming, bring them on. We just want everyone to do so well.
So we have been fortunate to have some incredible rowers representing Canada over the years, and many of our medals come from rowing. Why do you think Canada has done so well in the sport?
Well, of course, I have to say, because rowers are awesome. And, I think sometimes you get into a program where you're surrounded by great coaches and great teammates. And, I was part of a really incredible time in Canadian rowing, where there was just a really strong men's team and a really strong women's team, and we trained with and against each other. So we were always making each other better and stronger. We had incredible individual athletes within that group. I remember within the women's team, we made each other stronger. And then that's sort of, that opens up a door for lots of other Canadians to go that, Canadians can do this. And we went from the 90s, where the entire team was super successful. And then in the early 2000s, it was our men's team was very successful. And then I think lately it's been our women's team that's been really growing in popularity with success in our women's pair. And we've just qualified 10 boats, which is the biggest team we're going to have since the Atlanta Olympics. So it's really exciting. I got to say, it's also getting harder internationally, because there's more and more countries that have strong rowing programs. It maybe used to be that there was 14 countries that could win medals, and now there's 40 countries that can win medals of the almost 100 countries that are participating in the Olympic rowing regatta.
Right. So, well, you will be representing Canada as the chef de mission. By the way, congratulations on that honor.
Thank you.
Can you please tell my listeners about the role and what you will be doing for the Olympic athletes?
Yeah. So the chef de mission of an Olympic team is the head of delegation. which means I'm kind of the grand poobah and I'm the lead. And in some countries, they use that person to be kind of the person who's making all the operational decisions, all the logistical decisions, like admin. It's very like technical. And so in some countries, they use it. If we use Canadian politics way, in some countries, they use it like the prime minister, the person who's responsible ultimately for all decisions. In Canada, we use it a little bit more like the queen. So while I'm involved on every committee that there is, I have more of an input and a recommendation role on a lot of committees. And so then ultimately what I'm responsible for is being an ambassador for the team, talking to the press and the media, being a spokesperson for the team, because we've been talking about this team before it's actually been nominated. We won't officially name anyone to the team until July 5th. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been saying who's been nominated by their sport.
Yeah.
And then on July 5th, the Canadian team will say, ta-da, this is who our team is. And so we need someone to talk about the team and for the team until we actually have our team. And that's been me. So I've been talking about what Team Canada's been doing. I started talking about before we went into our stay-at-home orders during the pandemic, and during how we've been managing the disappointment, the depression, and then the coming back and beginning to thrive again as athletes are getting a chance to train and compete, prepare for the Olympics. So ultimately, as chef de mission, I'm the ambassador, I'm the advocate, I'm the spokesperson, I'm the mentor, and sometimes I'm just the cheerleader and the mascot.
You're everything.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun role, right? It's always a really fun role, and I think in the pandemic it's been really different because instead of just being this like yay go team go kind of cheerleader, I've really had to change a little bit of my messaging and talk to people, right? Because it's been a hard year, right? Like I'm sure you would have liked to have seen your friends more this year, and you would have liked to have interacted with people, and that's kind of sucks, and it's sad, and it's been the same for our athletes. And so I've been talking with them about that sadness has been okay, and we've been talking about strategies and tools and ways to change that, right? How do you change that channel of like, I'm stuck at home to, okay, I'm stuck at home. What can I do? Right. And I don't know, like you can see, I'm really lucky about a lot of exercise equipment jammed into my house right now.
I see that.
But we kind of figure out the things that make us happy and how to do what we can with what we've got.
So did you ever imagine during your first Olympics that you would end up being the chef de mission?
No way. I remember at my first Olympics, I was 24, and one of the veterans, I was trying out for that team. It's even when I was trying out for my first Olympics that I didn't make, and I was 20. And one of the athletes on that team had their 30th birthday. And I said, if I'm anywhere near the Olympics in 10 years, like shoot me, like this would be crazy. And now it's not just 10 years later, it's 30 years later. I'm still around the Olympic environment. Instead of just going to one Olympic Games, Tokyo is going to be my 10th Olympic Games. I never envisioned that there was even a role, because when I was being an athlete, there wasn't anyone doing any mentoring and helping athletes out with the type of support that I give. I'm not a sports psychologist. They talk a lot and work with the athletes really about the field of play and how they manage their stress and their ambitions with respect to the performance of sport. And, I come in, and when I'm mentoring athletes, it's a little bit of that, but I'm talking more about specifically the cultural ideas of being a champion at the Olympics, and the emotional and ambition side of it.
So I'm guessing, wait, sorry, how many Olympic Games was it? 10?
Tokyo's going to be my 10th. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Right? Right?
So judging by that, you must have a lot of experience in the Olympics. Are you able to offer any advice and encouragement to young athletes, especially those who are competing for the first time?
Yeah, that's a big part of what I do. I think the messages that always worked for me, no matter which Olympics I was going to, are the ones I try and pass along the most. And I think first and foremost, and I was talking to a group of our weightlifters yesterday, is there's no superheroes at the Olympics, right? The people who are winning medals at the Olympics, the people who have success at every level, right? Like Zander, whatever it is that you're doing, the people and the kids and the people who are having success and who end up being happy, they're normal people. And everybody has challenges. I'm sure you could talk quite a bit about this, right? Everyone has challenges, but it's still, it is sort of the normal people who are the ones who are going out there and achieving success and who can be happy. And, it's going to get done because we believe it's not people who are not us, it's people who are us. And in that, so it's normal people are the ones who are doing special things is the first thing that I think is most important. And then really putting it out that fear and doubt are a normal part of the path. Like there's not a medal that I won that wasn't like terrified. There wasn't a medal that I won that during the race I didn't want to stop because I thought I was too tired, or I was too sore, or I was too scared to keep trying. Fear and doubt are part of every path. And because you have fear and doubt doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It doesn't mean you've picked a goal that's too hard for you. It often means you've picked the right goal. It's something that you believe in and you care about. And so when you have fear and doubt, don't worry about that. Just go, oh, there you are, my little fear and doubt. And you just put it on your shoulder and you say, come on, let's go. And then on the other shoulder, there's a little angel that's often quieter. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's shouting at you and you're just listening to it and you're so into it. But on this shoulder, on the other shoulder, your angel's saying you can do it. And why not you? And go for it. Just try. This is fun. And so it's kind of balancing the volume control. So that's the third thing, the volume control between, your negative doubting voices and your positive confident voices. That's sort of part of a champion's path, and that's part of everybody's path going to the Olympics.
That's cool. And so unfortunately, this Olympics will not be the typical Olympic game due to COVID. But how difficult has it been for our athletes to focus on their preparation when they're the competition? And do you think once the competition starts, in the Olympics, do you think it will be like any other Olympics, or do you think?
Yeah, I like where you finished there, and I'll start where you finished and I'll go back to where you began. Yes. I think once the athletes start competing, once they, get their hands on their oar, on their equipment, whether it's a bar, whether it's their foot on a ball, put their feet on the grass, on the track, get their body in the pool, whatever it is for all the different sports and all the different athletes, as soon as they get on the field of play, it's going to be a competition and something that they've been training for the whole time. You're right. It has been incredibly difficult for all of them to train and prepare. And particularly in Canada, we've had very strict stay-at-home rules. And for people in Ontario, it's been, the strict, so strict. And it had to be. It had to be so we could protect our communities. We are still eagerly waiting for kids like you to get back on playing fields and play sports, team sports in a regular sort of way and train for them in a regular sort of way. But for athletes, it's been terribly difficult. And one of the things they've been missing the most is competitions. Usually they get to go around the world. They chase great weather conditions and ideal weather conditions for training. They go for good sports venues and great competition against their peers around the world that helps them test and figure out how they're doing. And that's been the biggest gap that we've had over the last year, is the absence of competition and travel. And so the athletes have had these really solid training blocks where they get to train and practice, not always an ideal situation, but they've been really uninterrupted by competition. And while we miss the competition, and it gives us a little peace of mind knowing how we're doing. If you're doing great, it's awesome to know you're doing great. And honestly, if you're doing terribly, it's kind of nice to know that too, right? It gives you a sense of that you need to work on something and keep going. But people don't have that. So going into Tokyo, they're actually faster and stronger than they've ever been before, but they're out of racing and competition shape. So for us, the viewer, it's going to be amazing because when it's going to be this big surprise to everyone. And everyone's going to be going, huh, I'm going really fast right now. This is pretty amazing.
How important is it that we carry on the tradition of the Olympics every 4 years? And do you think the current format of countries bidding on the games is the right one moving forward? Or do you think having a group of regular hosts makes more sense?
You know what, I could argue this either way, quite honestly. You can see how for a long time, the way the IOC has been doing it has been building into a big problem. You know, the venues are getting too big. You know, a lot of them end up being called what's called like a white elephant. It's just this big thing that gets built and nobody ever uses it again. And they're very expensive. So there is a thought that only a few countries or a few cities have the resources to build to do this kind of thing. The problem, one of the problems with having like set host cities is the accommodation. The accommodation for the Olympic Village usually is housing for 11,000 people. And, you know, for example, in Tokyo, it's basically a new neighborhood got built. And as soon as the games are over, those homes are going to go over to new people. You can't call them up every 4 years and say, hey, you know, time to move out. Those Olympic athletes are coming back and they're going to change everything and redo the walls and all that sort of stuff, which is what we do. So the IOC has looked at this, and it's based on the 2024, which is now, it sounds like it's still ahead of us, but it started in 2020. They changed the way that bidding works, and it's now way more in line with how Toronto did the 2015 Pan Am Games, which wasn't just in Toronto, right? For the 2015 Pan Am Games, the competitions went everywhere from Windsor, Niagara Falls, up to Collingwood, I believe, and over to Kingston. So it was very spread out. There's different bids that are going to come where it could be multiple countries included in a bid, you know, multiple cities included in a bid. So going forward, they're looking to make sure that venues are way more sustainable. Even, you know, behind you, you're showing the Tokyo Stadium. That was a new stadium. Sorry, not a new stadium. They revisited it. It was something that they had to recreate. And so reusing stadiums, and it's like the technology where you can bring in a 50-meter pool and then move that to a new community when you're finished. There's a lot of things that I think for moving the Olympics around to different cities and different countries is definitely a better way to go.
So
Sorry about the dog barking. I don't know if you can hear that right now.
It's fine. So like once you win, what goes through your mind when you're standing on a podium, listening to your national anthem with a gold medal around your neck? What's going through your mind?
Once I won, as soon as I crossed the finish line, the first thing that went through my mind was relief. And then it was relief. And then, oh my God, that really hurt. Because like I said, rowing is super grueling. So my first thing was relief that we won the race. We did what we wanted to do. Our expectation was to be faster than everyone, and we did it, and it was amazing. And the next thing you think after you cross the finish line, you're like, oh, we did it, was ow, because our whole body really hurt. And then you sort of go through this whole thing of, you know, there's a process, you know, you have to roll over here, wait, and then when it's the appropriate moment, you go over there, and you know, someone comes around and puts this big, beautiful medal around your neck, and then they play the anthem, and you're like, this is such a dream. Like, how does this happen? And you go through that whole moment, and in hindsight, there's something very businesslike about that. And it's not until like a day or two later when you're really relaxed and you're away from the media, and you're kind of just walking around. I remember the first time in Barcelona, just walking around and I was walking around inside the Olympic Village, and I was like, this is incredible. Like I have what everybody wants. Like everyone has come to the Olympics to win one of these things. And I had two. And it's just always been an amazing feeling that it's not about anything that I've gotten. It's about how it made me feel inside.
So you've been recognized for your accomplishments, including the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame. And I might pronounce this wrong. I'm sorry if I do. The
Oh, meritorious service.
merit,
Everybody pronounces that wrong.
meritorious,
Meritorious.
meritorious,
Yeah.
civil medal, and the Order of Canada, and the Thomas Keller Medal from FISA.
Visa. Yep.
FISA. And is there like one honor that stands out for you the most?
Gosh. Well, I have two pins on right now. One is the Order of Canada pin, and the other one is Olympic champion. Gosh, which one stands out the most for the awards? Maybe Order of Canada. I don't know. Sometimes it's the FISA one was recognizing a career. Maybe that one. Maybe the Thomas Keller Medal, because it recognized a career, not just for winning races, but how we did it and how we carried ourselves and promoted ourselves and that sort of thing.
That's awesome. So we have some rapid fire questions now, if you're okay with that. Okay, so you ready?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so your favorite Olympic moment?
Mine or watching somebody else's?
Like yours.
Okay. It changes every day. Right now, I'm going to say the winning the women's double, which was Atlanta, our third gold medal. I think maybe it's my favorite right now because we're talking a lot about it because it's the 25th anniversary of it, and it was just harder. It was harder, yeah. So third gold medal.
Your most memorable Olympic experience?
Carrying the flag with Kathleen at the closing ceremony in Atlanta.
Who was your childhood Olympic hero?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I don't know that I had one, honestly. Like, I know that's not supposed to be the right answer. I'm gonna go. I was a grown up. I was an athlete, and it's Kathy Freeman, who was an Australian runner, Australian 800-meter runner. She was just amazing, and just watching her win and watching the burden that she carried as a Indigenous Aboriginal runner for Australia was just incredible.
What was your toughest sacrifice during your training?
My life. I often talk about that it wasn't a sacrifice; it was a choice, because I chose it. I chose to not focus on my own personal life. I was able to do my education, but I really just focused on sport. In the end, it turned out pretty well. But I didn't do anything but sport for about 17 years.
What was the most challenging Olympic rowing event for you?
All of them. Probably the most challenging part of the Olympic event was the relationship that I had with Kathleen, actually, because rowing is rowing, and we always figured it out, whether it was the quad and we got a bronze when we wanted to do better than that, or whether it was a singles race. Every race I kind of figured it out. But I think the thing that was the hardest for me and the most rewarding to figure out was my relationship with Kathleen. And I'm an extrovert and she was an introvert, and just learning the power of introverts. It took me a long time. It was a real challenge for me, but I'm really glad that she was patient and I persevered and figured it out.
If you could do over a past race, which one would it be?
I kind of won most of my races. So you mean like relive a race or change something that I did in a race?
It's like
the mistakes.
It's like going back to the race and yeah, exactly. Seeing what you did. Like seeing what you did wrong
like,
and changing it.
even the races, like we were always pretty introspective about the races that we did. Let's see, even the races where we made big mistakes, I wouldn't want to undo that mistake because I always learned so much of it for the next race. Like, there was a race where I didn't really give up, but I didn't try harder. And Kathleen and I learned a lot about that we applied for our racing for the next 6 years. Mistakes are just really good learning opportunities. And I was really fortunate that I don't think we made a really big mistake in a final race that was undoable. Like, even in the quad, we came third. We lost the photo finish to Ukraine. But I can't think of anything we did wrong there. I'd like to go through that one again and see if there was something I could fix in it, but I don't think so. Like, I'm pretty content with the races that I had. Like, I came second to Silken in a race. I would really like to have won that one, but I didn't make a mistake in it. And like, I don't know. I don't think I would. I don't want to do over on any of my races. I would maybe like to witness them again, like from inside my brain, like it's, but no, I'm good.
Which country was the toughest opponent?
Romania. They always had very talented rowers. For me, it was Romania. I'm sure the current Canadian athletes would say the United States. But the Romanians they were talented, technical rowers and very strong.
And finally, if you could share one piece of advice to my graduating classmates, what would that be?
Believe in yourself. It's all the same stuff that I share with the Olympic athletes, right? Like, it's going to be kids like you who are going to have success, whatever you do. So, like, set hard goals. Don't be afraid of hard goals. You know what? You're not going to achieve all of them, but you're going to have way more fun trying for a hard goal than, if it's pretty boring when you do easy things, right? Easy things are boring. And people who only do easy things, well, they get boring. So have lots of hard things around you. Pick some hard goals and challenging goals. Be open to learning new things all the time. And that's sort of the path. But it's going to be, people like me and kids like you who are going to win stuff and who are going to, and whether that's winning at school, whether that's winning in sport, whether that's, achieving sort of badges and learning stuff. You can win in a library pretty much just by like learning stuff all the time. So being open to that kind of thing, I would say. And then, like I said before, like if you have fear and doubt and like butterflies in your stomach, it doesn't mean you're in the wrong place. And they're not going to do anything other than remind you that you care about what you're doing. So go for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining my podcast, and good luck in Tokyo. And yes, thank you very much for joining, and stay safe.
Well, yeah. Oh, I will. Thanks so much for your time. Remember to cheer Go Canada Go. And yes. I will apologize for the number of times I had to scatter around and do something today. It was a bit odd.
It's okay. Anyway. It's all good.
Okay, Zander.
Thank you for joining.
Thanks.